And we begin now at noon with breaking news. The Charlotte County Sheriff says a violent encounter forced deputies to shoot one of their former colleagues. Investigators say a domestic incident led to the shooting after other methods used by deputies didn't work. Now, the Sheriff's Office just held a press conference less than an hour ago and gave an in-depth account of what happened on Hamlet Drive in Inglewood Friday night. Weekly reporter Megan Contreras was there and has brand new information now for us at noon. Megan.
Yeah, we are learning Roberts, the former deputy with the department here, was shot in the leg and the bullet shattered his bone. The sheriff says Roberts headbutted his wife in the mouth and hit his 4-year-old daughter with a phone. But what's so alarming is this isn't the first time deputies responded to a domestic violence situation involving Roberts. Now, the sheriff says when deputies arrived to the home on Friday night, Roberts came out of the house with his hands up, but then went back inside and grabbed a knife. He came back out and tried cutting his arms and his throat area, and that's when Deputy Brooke Dooley tried to tase him. That taser was unsuccessful. Roberts then lunged with a knife at another deputy, Deputy Eric Knapp, who's been with the department for 11 years and knew Roberts. When Roberts wouldn't stop after multiple demands to stop and put the weapon down, Knapp fired. The sheriff says Roberts had cocaine on him, and the sheriff's office is still waiting to find out what pills were in his system. He is facing charges of domestic battery and aggravated assault on an LEO.
Well, the taser was first used because he was trying to harm himself, so the threat wasn't immediate toward deputies. So they tried to use the taser to subdue him. It missed its target, was ineffective. At that point, like I stated, it seemed to have set him off, and he began to attack the deputies, at which time deadly force was used.
Now, Roberts was hired at Charlotte County Sheriff's Office in 2002 as a clerk in the jail. In 2004, he became a deputy, and in 2008, he left the department because of a medical injury. Now, those two deputies that were involved on Friday night are now on administrative leave. Count on Wink News to stay on top of this story and bring you all of the developments. For now, we are live in Charlotte County. Megan Contreras, Wink News, now.
Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for your patience in this matter. On Friday at about 8:30 a.m., we received a call of a domestic incident that occurred over on Hamlet Drive. The caller advised that the male in the household had consumed pills and was suicidal and was acting violent in nature. Deputy First Class Eric Knapp arrived on scene first. He is an 11-year veteran with the Sheriff's Office, followed by Deputy Brooke Dooley, who is with the Sheriff's Office for 8 months. As Eric Knapp approached the residence, Kasey Roberts came out of the house with his hands up. They conversed verbally for just a couple minutes, and then he ran back in the house. Knapp began to pursue him, and as he reached the front of the house, Kasey Roberts came back out of the house holding a knife. He began to take the knife and put it to himself. He was trying to cut his arms and cut his throat area, at which time Deputy Brooke Dooley pulled out her taser and she tried to tase him. One prong hit, the other prong missed, which means they didn't make a connection and the taser was ineffective. This seemed to have set off Mr. Roberts, and he began to lunge toward Deputy Knapp, swinging the knife upwards in a motion. Deputy Knapp was backing away. He had his weapon drawn. He raised it and fired it as he was telling him to try and drop the knife. He was not listening. Roberts came within 5 feet of him, and he raised his firearm and he fired, shooting him, and he struck him one time in the leg. The bullet shattered his bone, which caused him to fall immediately to the ground, and he was unable to proceed any further. We were able to secure him at that point, and we rendered aid to him. He was transferred to a hospital where he remains, and he'll probably be there from 5 to 7 days. He is expected to recover from his injuries. Kasey Roberts was a deputy with the Sheriff's Office. He was hired back in 2002 as a clerk in our jail. He became a deputy in 2004, and he left the agency in 2008 on a medical injury. We've responded several times in regards to domestics with Kasey Roberts. And his local record, he's had 3 DUIs here in Charlotte County. He remains in custody within the hospital. A warrant was signed later that night, early Saturday morning, for domestic battery, as he had headbutted his wife in the mouth, causing injury. He also struck a 4-year-old child that was in the household with a phone. And then, of course, the aggravated assault on an LEO. He was stated to have taken several prescription medications. We haven't been able to confirm what is in his system yet because we do not have those records from the hospital. There was cocaine found in his possession. Again, we don't know if he had ingested any that particular day, but it was in his possession. The knife he used was a standard kitchen knife with about a 7-inch blade that he was swinging at the deputy when the deputy fired.
Thank you, Tony. New information tonight in a deputy-involved shooting out of Charlotte County. On Friday night, Charlotte County deputies responded to a domestic dispute in Englewood. A man with a weapon confronted deputies, leading one of them to shoot him. And now we're learning the suspect shot in this case is a former Charlotte County deputy himself. 4 in Your Corner, Sam Sosa, live in the studio with the details tonight. Sam?
Lisa, deputies arrived at that home, and that's where a confrontation between the deputy and this suspect, who we're now learning was a Charlotte County deputy, happened.
Last night there was 5 or 6 sheriffs when I came out, and the helicopter had just left.
People in this quiet Englewood neighborhood waking up in the middle of the night to unexpected commotion.
The sirens came up and we realized it was close because they got really loud and just stopped right here.
It was a shock. We haven't, to my knowledge, we've never had anything like that in the area.
Shocked to hear about a deputy-involved shooting. Charlotte County deputies showed up here on Hamlet Drive after a woman called saying a man assaulted her, was suicidal, and armed with a weapon.
I heard there were shots fired. I never heard them.
Deputies arriving to the home where 36-year-old Kasey Roberts still had that weapon. They got into a confrontation, ending with a deputy shooting Roberts in the leg. We tried finding Roberts' mugshot, but the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office told us, as a former law enforcement officer, Roberts' picture is exempt from disclosure. A close friend of his tells Fox 4 Roberts was a Charlotte County Sheriff's deputy in the past, and the incident is extremely out of character for him. Meanwhile, neighbors wondering what exactly led to shots fired.
I would definitely start lower and escalate. That's not a good thing to be shooting people.
This is the second deputy-involved shooting in Englewood in the last month. In late February, a man was killed after a similar call turned into a confrontation. Neighbors tell me if the person is armed, deputies need to protect themselves.
I think the police are justified in what they did, and they shot him in the leg. If they wanted to do something more serious, they certainly could have.
Unless you know the circumstances, you can't judge it.
Now we will be learning more about the circumstances of this deputy-involved shooting on Monday at a press conference. 4 in Your Corner will keep you updated on this story on air and online at fox4now.com. Sam Sosa, Fox 4 in Your Corner.
Thank you so much, Sam.
The night beat starts with a breaking news update. We now know the man shot in a deputy-involved shooting was a former Charlotte County deputy. Investigators say 36-year-old Kasey Roberts was shot when he and deputies had a confrontation last night in Englewood. Week News reporter Taylor Visacki joins us in the studio with more details. Taylor?
Yes, Brittany, this story gets even more concerning. Neighbors tell us that this isn't the first time deputies showed up at the former deputy's home.
It was like 30 seconds or so after the tasering, you heard a gunshot.
It all unfolded in this normally quiet neighborhood when a domestic disturbance call ends in gunfire.
I saw a bunch of cop cars pulling up around the corner, and so the lights were everywhere.
Charlotte County deputies say they've received a call that 36-year-old Kasey Roberts assaulted the woman who called. She also told them he had a weapon on him.
It sounded like they walked closer to him, and the officer was very deliberate and said, "Sir, you need to put the knife down now." He must not have, because they tasered him.
Neighbors say he didn't listen, and that's when deputies shot Roberts. Charlotte County Sheriff's Office confirmed to Wink News Roberts is also a former Charlotte County deputy.
It's very surprising because you don't hear that here, especially when the cops are there.
Roberts was also treated for a non-threatening gunshot wound and is expected to be okay. Back to you, Brittany.
Charlotte County Sheriff has no training or even has no non-lethal rubber bullets or bean bags or tear gas or body cameras to prove they're not lying about what happened. They shoot one of their own, but when it's a regular guy with a knife like a week ago they executed him on the spot with 8 shoots. Emptied the clip because your life isn't worth as much as theirs. Deputies shoot former deputy. By Elaine Allen Emmerich. Community News Editor. Englewood. A Charlotte County deputy shot and injured an ex-deputy Friday during a domestic dispute. Kasey Roberts, 36, a former road deputy and school resource officer assigned to Lemon Bay High School, was taken to a nearby hospital and treated for a non-life-threatening gunshot wound, according to the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office released Saturday. There were no other injuries reported. This is the second deputy-related shooting in Englewood in 3 weeks. Both incidents involved domestic incidents. At about 8:30 p.m. Friday, deputies were called to a domestic disturbance on the 6400 block of Hamlet Drive in Englewood. A woman told operators a man had assaulted her there, was suicidal and possessed a weapon, said Skip Conroy, CCSO spokesman. When deputies arrived outside the home, they encountered Roberts, who had an unidentified weapon, reports said. A confrontation developed between the suspect and deputies, with the suspect subsequently shot by a deputy, Conroy said in a statement. Roberts' wife of 5 years, who asked not to be identified Saturday, said she's not doing well. My face is all busted up, she said. I was several feet away from him, Kasey, when he was shot in the leg. I'm glad he's alive. The deputy who shot Kasey is devastated because he's a friend, but he had no choice. They tried to tase Kasey, but he wouldn't go down. He was on drugs, LSD or something. He was cutting his neck and no one could get him to stop. The unidentified deputy is on paid administrative leave, which is standard policy following an officer-involved shooting. Roberts' wife said the couple's 3 children, including an infant, were not harmed, but everyone is stressed. She's glad he's alive but doesn't plan to go back to him. The couple's neighbors, Asia and Adam Fisher, said they heard everything leading up to the gunshot from inside their yard. We were grilling out back and I could hear resting around the outside of our fence, Asia said. It was like people were purposely trying to be quiet. Then I heard someone say drop the knife several times. I saw loads of cops outside of our house. They didn't just shoot him. They tried to make him put down the knife. Adam Fisher said he was close to the fence when he heard the sound of the taser. They told his wife to go to a neighbor's with her kids, he said. I heard a gunshot and then everything was quiet. They had the whole area roped off with crime scene tape until 9 this morning. The Fishers and another neighbor said deputies have responded to the Roberts home on a few occasions. They have lived here for about a year and a half and they get into arguments a lot, Asia said. I never met Kasey, just his wife. She's always been nice. A neighbor said he wasn't real helpful when questioned by deputies because he never even heard the gunshot. However, he said Kasey came to him in February asking him to watch his 3 children while he went to look for his wife. He said deputies didn't come around his neighborhood until the couple moved in a year and a half ago. Before working at the CCSO, Roberts was a corrections officer. In 2006, he was a deputy with CCSO. He was working as the school resource officer at Lemon Bay High School in Englewood. He was removed from the post after attending a school dance intoxicated. He had volunteered as a chaperone and wasn't on duty or in uniform, but was known by many at the school to be a deputy. He took a date with him. That night, Roberts told investigators he was taking prescription medication for a medical condition, the report said. He also stated he had complete memory loss after a certain point in the evening, which included drinking beer and wine before the dance, the report said. Memory loss is a side effect of the medication, the report said. The investigation concluded Roberts had conducted himself in a way unbecoming of a deputy, according to reports published in The Sun. He was issued a letter of reprimand and required to complete substance abuse counseling. Roberts became a road patrol officer after the dance. In 2007, Roberts and 2 other deputies rescued a man from burning to death after the man doused his room with gasoline and set a fire. Roberts broke the door window on a door and pulled the man out. In 2010, Roberts was arrested on a driving under the influence charge. The Charlotte County Sheriff's Office refused to release the name of the deputy involved in the shooting. Instead, CCSO Sheriff Bill Prummell planned a press conference on Monday. This is the second deputy-involved shooting in Englewood in 3 weeks. On February 26, Charlotte County Sheriff's Deputy Scott Sarver shot Jacob Talby 8 times after the man refused to drop a 20-inch Bowie knife and a pocket knife coming out of the woods near his Markham Street home. Talby was intoxicated and kept coming at Sarver and 2 other deputies after threatening his wife several times. Prummell didn't release the deputies' names for several days after they were debriefed. Sarver and Deputy Adam Freitas and recruit Tony Soltis were all on paid administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. Since then, Freitas returned to work. Soltis is back in his training. Sarver is on administrative duties, which means he's working in the office, Prummell said. Hopefully we can get him back in service soon, he said. We are short deputies in that district, but we are moving some staff from our ancillary units and cover with overtime if needed. In short, we will make sure we have proper staffing to answer calls for service. Englewood editor Chris Porter and staff writer Gary Roberts contributed to this report. Email, eallen@sun-herald.com. Police responded to this area of Englewood Friday night in response to a domestic call. According to neighbors of Kasey Roberts, they could hear deputies asking for him to put down the knife on the side of his Englewood home Friday night. Roberts was allegedly shot in the leg by a Charlotte County Sheriff's deputy. Roberts was hospitalized and expected to survive. Sun photo by Elaine Allen Emrich.
Hey, Sheriff, we have a question about why your office, your intelligence division, is investigating private citizens for criminal investigation that happen to be activists that are overseeing your department. Why would you have your intelligence division investigate private citizens? We have done... Sir, we don't hate anyone. We love freedom and we love American people. and government is out of control. That's why you're seeing such a revolt nationwide. Why can't you just answer, why is Susan Edwards, your intelligence division, investigating private citizens? This should not happen.
Are you here to apply for a job?
Possibly I might be applying for a job, but that's irrelevant to my question. Why would you ask that question?
Well, enjoy the fair.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Excuse you?
Excuse me, sir.
So those of you that haven't
Wow.
been on a bike before, we're
Sheriff's getting a little too pushy. You work for us, Sheriff. Just keep that in mind. At one time we respected you, but not with that type of attitude.